Why do people believe in a God? Part 2. You've felt the presence/touch of God. Another common one. Feelings or sensations, as we know, are subjective. Quite often, we feel what we expect to feel, or what we want to feel. It's either a placebo effect, or wishful thinking, again. Besides, if the only thing God does is to make us feel warm inside from time to time, if you believe in Him for just this reason, that's what you're implying, then does such a God deserve worship? He's no more than a spiritual foot warmer, after all. It's comforting to believe that someone is taking care of you. It is, indeed, but if the reason for such comfort doesn't exist, it can actually be dangerous. It's like convincing yourself that you have Superman-like powers, or that your perfectly common shirt is bulletproof. If you behave according to those beliefs, you'll probably injure yourself, or even die. If you don't, then you don't really believe, right? Anyway, this is, once again, wishful thinking. Believing, whether it's true or not, feels good, so you believe. You're afraid of death, and want to believe that it's not the end, that you simply go to a better place. Wishful thinking, once again. In reality, things don't become true just because we want them to be true. Alternatively, it may not be about you. Sometimes, the death of a loved one causes you to need to believe that the essential part of them isn't really dead, it's just gone to a better place, where there is no more suffering, and where you'll meet them someday. You feel that finite life in this world is meaningless unless there is something afterwards. In other words, if, no matter what you do, you die and turn to dust, what difference does it make whatever you do in your life? So you have to believe that there is something more. However, not only is this wishful thinking, again, but it's a limiting view of life. If you believe that the purpose of life is something exterior, then this view makes sense. However, if you instead believe that the purpose of life is life itself, that is, that life needs no external justification, and is worth it on its own, not to mention that it can be utterly enjoyable, and that you actually can make a difference while you're here, then you can easily see what's wrong with this view of existence. You want to believe that there is some kind of absolute, perfect justice in the universe, even if only after death. I'd like that too. Really. You can't imagine how strongly I wish that was true. I've seen monsters living in luxury their entire lives, and never paying for their crimes, and I've seen terrible things happen unfairly to good people, sometimes randomly, sometimes caused by the monsters I mentioned. I wish that both would get what they deserve. It would be so comforting to believe so. Unfortunately, wishing doesn't make it so. The best thing we can do is try to make things better here, not resign ourselves and hope for some kind of justice later. You've had some unusual experience that made you believe. Not necessarily a miracle, that's the next one, but an amazing coincidence. Say, you prayed for something that was quite improbable, and it happened. The problem here is usually referred to as counting the hits and ignoring the misses. I'll write more about it in the near future. You've witnessed an apparent miracle. Now, this should be it, right? I mean, if you witness an actual miracle, it means, at least, that the supernatural exists, not necessarily God or gods, but at the very least there is something out there, right? So, what are those miracles? Oddly enough, they are always one of the following: a disease goes into remission, or actually vanishes, even though doctors were pessimistic, someone speaks in tongues, or acting as if they were possessed, something, by random chance, looks like a religious entity, such as Jesus or the Virgin Mary in tree bark, or in a slice of pizza, statues, or pictures of religious entities, usually in a church, appear to cry or bleed.